The Edifier Stax S3 Spirit are the best sounding wireless headphones we've heard. That's the video. That's it. You could switch off this video right here, or you could stay for the proof on that perspective. Goedendag, weer DHRME. Dancing Happily reviews Mega Epic.
As far as wireless headphones go, we've reviewed quite a few on our channel. The Edifier Stax Spirit S3, that's quite a mouthful, changes all that. In the spirit of the model number S3, here are 3 fantastic things we want to talk about first before we really delve into the sound. 1. These support dual device connectivity. You can connect it to 2 devices at once. And you know what? It works pretty flawlessly. Pairing was easy and switching even easier. In fact, normally you have to pause music on one device and hit play on the other, but this was the best implementation we've ever seen. No need to hit pause. So say you're listening to music on the phone and you hit play on a YouTube video on your laptop, you get the YouTube audio instantly. The music pauses on your phone instantly. This isn't just a gimmick, it actually works and works very well. The second cool thing is the battery life, 80 hours. I repeat, 80 hours, with 10 minutes of charge getting you a mind-blowing 11 hours. I don't know about you, but I'm happy that I don't have another device to charge frequently. There are too many one-day devices in our lives. And you know the numbers are one thing, but this really hits home when you've used other headphones and reconnect these. The percentage drops by single percentage points. So 84, 83, 82, yeah, you know how to subtract 1. But there you go. Using the Sonys and the Boses, that range is 10s or 20s. But unlike most of the Sonys and Boses that we review, these headphones do not have any active noise cancelling. So that's obviously a battery saver. And the third thing is that these are super comfortable. We found that we could wear them for long periods of time. The headband does touch the crown a little bit and it could be better, but the pads are very good and roomy. Our ears didn't get pressed down and therefore the pain was not bad. The pressure on the jaw is also fairly light and can be alleviated by adjusting the headband. You get 2 types of pads, the lambskin leather pads and the ice pads as Edifier calls them. They also come with these beautiful satin pouches. Oh, where was I? Yes, both these pads are very easy to remove and fix in place. Even Rohan with his 2 left hands could do it comfortably. Comfortable to change, comfortable to wear. They also have a very good passive seal that does a decent job of muffling dins hearable in right many environments. But the ice pads, they look cool and feel cool to the touch, but they're not as hot as they seem, or they are. Wow, we're really mixing up metaphorical and literal here. They do get hot pretty quick. After an hour of using them at room temperature, they were at about 32 degrees Celsius with the room temperature at about 23 degrees. So although they are a bit cooler than the leather pads at first touch, don't expect miracles. But a note, if you're switching out the pads, make sure to update the setting to the correct pads in the app or else stuff is gonna sound very wrong. The headphones are pretty well built. They use a Sony XM4 kind of design for the headband adjustment, and like the XM4, these fold. They also come with a hard shell case, which is quite frankly the coolest looking case I've seen in a long time. You get a USB-C cable and a 3.5mm to 3.5mm cable, as well as a bunch of paperwork.
These come with physical buttons. A 3-button rocker on the right side controls volume, play, pause and power off. And the controls are pretty standard. The buttons work well, but the weird thing is that they only work in wireless mode and not in wired mode, at least not with my Mac. The looks are kinda an acquired taste. They have this rather bold Stax logo with a carbon fiber weave pattern at the background, which I don't know, isn't very clean or modern, but maybe that's what audiophiles like? Who knows? I'm not one. Other than that, it's pretty normal looking. These come with planar magnetic drivers and Fluxor and Uniforce and low distortion and blah blah blah, but the bottom line, guys, is that these sound pretty good. The way they're tuned is that they have a pretty flat frequency response, but they have 3 different kinds of sound. We'll come to that in a bit. The overall sound signature has a very revealing nature to it. Clear and crisp mids and highs and a great soundstage. It has very good bass extension, which means it can play very low notes, but we'd expect that with planars. What you also expect as compared to a dynamic driver is a slight lack of oomph in the bass. So that's the only thing you can expect to be lacking. Again, it's not that there's no bass, let's be clear here, but even something like an AirPods Max is going to give you a punchier sound. For example, on Blue by Keishi, the sub bass is plenty audible, so again, very good extension, and the attack is very clear and very precise, but there's just like a lack of punch. In terms of volume, when using these wirelessly, these were plenty loud. Just for reference, these are louder than the Sony WH-1000XM5 by a bit, and that's nothing to sneeze at. The clarity on the mids and the precision of the highs is mwah. It's really like no other wireless headphones we have tested in the past, and we've tested a few. From classic rock guitars to vocals in Porcupine Tree's Deadwing, the singer's voice and solo guitars just sing. Even though the vocals are heavily processed in Deadwing, the voices blend in beautifully with a rather busy cacophony of drums, bass, and guitars. Instrument separation is quite excellent. If there's any weakness, it would probably be the treble, where the S's on the voice can be a bit harsh. We noticed it on some YouTube talking head kind of videos, not in very well recorded music, but as wireless headphones, I would expect that these work with general purpose use as well. For example, don't watch MKBHD's videos with these headphones. I mean, I'm not dissing other YouTubers, but the S's in MKBHD's videos really kind of stood out to me and were a bit grating on these headphones. Then there's this percussion shakery thing in the chorus of the song Capsize by Friendship and Emily Warrens. That really sticks out. It's not too thin, but just too, what's the technical word here? Sticky outy? And too forward in the mix. But there aren't many cases where this happens. I mean, Dua Lipa is my guilty pleasure, and while listening to Idgaf, even the F words had some harsh sibilance. And this also comes up when you start listening to Steven Wilson's Pariah, when the female vocals and the multiple voices start singing. The timbre in the voices is great for the most part. Instruments in the upper range sometimes suffer from being a bit too glassy. In terms of soundstage, I got a pretty good 3D image in my head using Tool's Chocolate Chip Trip, which is my soundstage imaging song. Sounds were before, next to, and around me, moving pretty smoothly with no perceptible gaps in the imaging. In the app settings, there are 3 presets, and these are those 3 EQ settings I talked about before. Classic, Hi-Fi, and Stax. Now, these are the frequency response curves. I prefer the classic preset since it gave me the best bass out of the 3, but those of you who are nostalgic for that Stax electrostatic sound could probably get it using the Stax preset. I don't know, I've never owned one of those, but it's not something I liked, with the bass almost completely scooped out with an aggressive shelf on the EQ. I found that the hi-fi mode delivers better highs and turns down the bass and mids a bit more as well. Now, we are a wireless audio review channel. Subscribe if you like that kind of stuff, by the way. So we're gonna break the sound up in terms of wireless mainly and talk a little bit about wired and wired plus. So wirelessly, these sound pretty good on aptX Adaptive, as you'd expect, with all that Snapdragon sound branding all over the box. The best sounding wireless headphones that we've heard so far, period. So for devices that support aptX, mainly Android devices and Windows, these sound good. When going to AAC, the codec that iPhones use, there is a difference in sound between aptX and AAC. And usually, you know what, we don't care about that so much while reviewing wireless headphones. But since these headphones are all about that sound, we have to say that there's a slight perceptible resolution loss over AAC. So you won't get the best out of these with an iPhone unless you go wired. Connecting to wired is how we'd recommend you get the best out of these headphones. These don't do audio over USB Type-C, but only use the 3.5mm analog cable. Once you plug in the headphones, it kills all active Bluetooth connections, but interestingly, the active circuitry needs to remain on for you to use these headphones. And the play pause buttons also didn't work on the MacBook. Now, first off, the volume control on the headphones only controls the amp volume on the headphones and not the device volume you're listening to, exception my Android. So it's a bit confusing. On the Mac, for example, this had its own volume, the Mac had its separate volume. On the Android, this controlled the Android volume. Whatever, it's something you can get used to. I tested this directly with the headphone jack on my M1 MacBook Pro and then the Cord Mojo. There's definitely a perceptible difference between wireless and wired. Taking these headphones from like 90 to, I don't know, 94 or something on, I don't know, a random scale. So yes, to get the best out of these headphones, a good DAC would help. But wireless, they are also very, very good. So overall, For sound, these are really good headphones. A big recommend from us. So you don't normally buy headphones like these for their phone call quality, but you know what? If you buy headphones, it's also nice if they can do phone calls and do them clearly. So the audio you're hearing right now is coming directly from the microphones on the Edifier Stax Spirit S3. What do you think? This is a relatively quiet environment in my backyard. So there's a test. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. On to windy conditions. Okay, so we've got some wind. I'm cycling on a bridge along a canal in the Netherlands. What do you think? Is my audio clear? Audio is coming from the microphones on the headphones. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at those beautiful houses on the canal.
Look, people considering these headphones are probably okay with paying $399 for just good sound. And that's a perfectly reasonable position. I mean, audiophiles pay that much for cables. Snake oil. So, let's see how the Edifier Spirit stacks up to the Max, the AirPods Max, and Sony's WH-1000XM5, purely in terms of sound. The AirPods Max goes for a bassier profile, and if you A/B test these two, there's a clear lifting of the veil moment that happens when you go to the Edifier. The AirPods Max were probably the best sounding Bluetooth headphones we tried so far, but the Edifier is in another league, especially when we're talking about mid and treble presentation. The dynamic drivers on the Sony are not as nuanced as the Edifier, but the Sony is absolutely slamming when it comes to bass. So tasty and overdone. To get closer to the Edifier sound signature, we used the Sony's app and switched our preset to bright. If you want real refinement in your sound and if you want a lot of bass, we would pick the Edifier, we think.
So that's it, guys. That was our first review of kind of an audiophile-ish product. What do you think we could do different? Do you like this kind of content? Let us know in the comments down below. You've been watching us lifting our spirits, and we've been DHRME. Namaste.
No idea what that means.
Heat
No idea what that
videos
means.
of the headphones I just used.